Hello, everyone. We are here with Gina Chavez. She will be joining us in summer of 2021 over at Elm Street. So we have a little bit of time before then, but we just want to go ahead and share with you all a little bit about her and show you this interview. So, Gina, it's nice to have you.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Um, First and foremost, tell us a little bit about yourself. Just a
Sure.
general,
Yeah,
what you like, what you don't like, where you're from, all those things.
sure. So I'm from Austin, Texas. I'm currently in Austin, Texas, in my new home studio. I was born and raised here. I didn't grow up speaking Spanish. I'm half Mexican, half Swiss German, but I just didn't really have much connection to my Latin roots. And I've always felt so drawn to that side of my family. My dad's side of the family is from Saltillo, Mexico. And, it's interesting. My parents really taught me the love of travel and the love of cultures. They went on this wild and crazy trip in the 70s before they had kids. They rented or they bought a VW bus in the 70s and drove across Europe for a year and a half. And so I grew up on all these like wild travel stories of my hippie parents. And so I feel like even though I didn't grow up with the language, I did grow up with a love for cultures. And I feel like that's come across a lot of my music, not only through, being able to um, honor different cultures, but also being able to travel all over the world. So one of the things my band and I have been able to do is tour the world as ambassadors with the US State Department. And we've gone to 12 different countries. We've been to places like Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Jordan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Venezuela, Guatemala, like all over the place. And it's been such an amazing journey to be able to do that. And so I feel like my music in a lot of ways is I kind of get to be a sponge and pick up the things that I like and just kind of throw them into music and then be able to share that with audiences everywhere so that everybody gets to kind of take a bit of a journey, even if they can't leave their homes, for instance. That's a little bit about my story.
Um, I would be remiss if I didn't ask. I love your friend, I believe to your right, the panda bear. Is there a story there, or do we just really like pandas?
Well, if you go watch my music video, Let It Out, then you will understand.
Okay, sounds good. I'll make sure that our audience has a link to that in the description for this. Um, I was doing some research on you, and it looks like that you have a college fund that you work on as well, um, to try to help young women in, I believe it was Texas. Is that correct?
Almost. So my wife and I, before, let's see, this was the last time the economy was tanking, in 2008. And anyway, long story short, we went to El Salvador to do some mission work. And so we lived with nuns. We worked with girls in an all-girls school, and then we started this college scholarship fund for girls in El Salvador going to school in El Salvador. And essentially we taught young women, and we were asking them at the end of our time, after the end of living together for 8 months and just living and breathing daily life with the nuns and with girls, and where we'd like wake up in the morning and we'd pray a rosary and then we'd do, chores. And my wife and I were Catholic, and we met at the University Catholic Center, whole other story. Anyway, but we had an incredible time in El Salvador. They didn't know we were gay, just FYI. Um, and we just, our life was completely changed in El Salvador. The young women there were amazing. They treated us like family. And so for us, it felt kind of wrong to just leave, and they'd be like, okay, cool, we're gone. And so my wife said, why don't we start a college scholarship fund for young women? Let's see if they want to go to college, and so kind of 10 years later or whatever it is, almost 12 years later, we've been raising money. We do benefit concerts here in Austin, and we have a private Catholic university that the young women attend. And to date, we have 4 graduates of college graduates. They have 5-year programs down there. We've raised more than probably close to about $80,000. And we have 2 more students that are now in their sophomore year.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think our community will really love to hear that.
And you actually, you can find information on my website, so ginachavez.com, and then there's a tab that says College Fund, and that'll tell you all the, you can find a couple of documentaries we've shot with some of these young women and in El Salvador, and just some more information on the project.
Awesome. Now let's talk a little bit about your music and your process when it comes to things like that. So obviously you said you didn't grow up speaking Spanish, but that has come into your music in a big way. At what point did you decide to start incorporating more than one language into music?
Yeah, so I would say I was a junior in college, and I went to Argentina. So I did a study abroad in Argentina. I have no idea why. Actually, I literally just was like, hey, I'll just go somewhere Spanish speaking. I had no idea what I was doing. Stupid college students. Anyway, so I literally get to Argentina. I've never left home. Like, I lived in a dorm, but like I've always lived in Austin, right? So this is the first time I'm literally, a 13-hour plane ride away from my parents. It's crazy. And I get down there, and of course, like they have a very particular kind of accent, right? It's, hablan castellano, por favor. Like the way that they talk is so different. And I was like, what? I was like, where am I? What is happening? But anyway, I was there for 4 months, and I ended up like falling in love with the language, but also with the culture and specifically the music. So there's a folkloric type of music called chacarrera that is from Argentina. That's actually this drum back here. It's called a bombo legüero. And anyway, it's used in like this kind of folkloric rhythms in Argentina, and this music called chacarrera. And so I just fell in love with it and tried to do my own version of it. I made my own version, the Gina Chavez, but people loved it. And so I had this one song in Spanish that was like a fake version of the chacarrera, and people totally dug it. And that, I think for me, I figured out, hey, I love to do this. People really like it. I don't know why, but people really like it. And so like, yeah, keep going. And so I think there's some songs where, some songs are bilingual, some songs are all in Spanish, some songs are all in English. I definitely have a fusion music.
Yeah, is there a rhyme or reason as to when you decide what language a song's going to be in, or does it just pop into your head in one language and you just run with that?
I mean, it's a combination. I would say there's definitely times where, for instance, I'll probably play the song Miles de Millas, and it's a bilingual cumbia. And Miles was one of those songs where I literally was like, the chorus has to be in Spanish. I don't know why, it just does, right? Yeah. And then there's other songs, like, for instance, one that I wrote that's called Soy Quien Soy, that I literally was in a songwriting group, and the challenge was to write a song that was out of your comfort zone. And for me, like, I'm not a native speaker, and so it's hard to write in Spanish, And so I hadn't written a song in Spanish in a really long time, and I hated bar chords. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to write a song in Spanish with only bar chords. And so like, so I think it's just a mixed bag, right?
Yeah, no, of course. Where do you get a lot of your inspiration for writing music from? So you were talking about, obviously, some of the folk music in Spanish-speaking countries in South America, but I've also been listening a lot to Light Beam and She Persisted and things like that, I'm wondering where you get your inspiration from or how that works for you.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that, I'm inspired by people who fight the good fight, and I think there's definitely a piece of me that I would say it is a bit hard for me to put myself in someone else's shoes without really diving into their story. So I used to be a journalism major. That's what I studied in college. And I loved that because I felt like in a lot of senses I got to do what you said. Like I was on the other side of the interview, right? And so if I got to know somebody or got to know what they do, then I had an easier time trying to write something because I could put myself in, I could literally be like, hey, tell me what life is like in your shoes. And then I could do that, right? Thanks, babe. I might some more water too. My wife is amazing, by the way. Um, so, you know, I'd say a lot of it is definitely from like kind of my perspective. Like a lot of it is just I'm somebody who very much has to almost have a visceral experience in order to internalize what it is like for someone else. You know what I mean? Whereas for a lot of people, it's easier to just like, oh my God, I can't imagine what it's like, you know, like even for like healthcare workers right now. Like I have to really think about it, or like hear somebody's story on, you know, on NPR or something to be like, oh wow, like this is bad. You know, whereas otherwise I'm just kind of like do do do, like everything's cool, you know. And so it definitely takes a lot of energy for me to just like really really understand like life in someone else's shoes. um and so I feel like a lot of times the stuff that comes to me is from, you know, other stories. um Other stories, you know, even my wife, like there's this song called Like an Animal, that's about the homeless. And, you know, she literally, before we went to El Salvador, she used to do mission work in LA on Skid Row. So it's like the largest concentrated population of homeless in the United States. And, you know, so she would just tell me stories. And literally this one night, you know, she started telling me this story of this guy, Andre. And I just started writing a song, like as we're talking on the phone, you know, I'm just like jotting down notes and I'm like, oh my God. And, you know, so I don't know. I think just daily life stuff, I guess. But
Yeah, it
people's
seems.
stories are very inspiring.
Yeah, I was about to say, it seems like you want to, like you said before, fight the good fight a little bit with your music instead of just. There are some songs that are there just to make you feel good, and there's some songs that you want to move people a little bit, which is
Right.
really cool.
Right.
You mentioned NPR, so I'd be remiss if I didn't ask this. Um, you obviously had a Tiny Desk concert that went very well because now you're a Tiny Desk judge, from what I saw. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
what was the Tiny Desk process like, and what is the process of being a judge going to be like, if you have any ideas so far?
Yeah, totally. So, so being on Tiny Desk was amazing, obviously, and I can't like we crossed 1 million views. I'm trying to remember when, like a couple months back, and that I mean, I'm just like my mind just like can't comprehend, you know, having 1 million views. I'm like, you know, I'm definitely an indie artist that doesn't have that kind of viewership, especially on YouTube. Um, so that's just amazing for one. And we had an incredible time. I think it was 2015 when we shot that, and it's a really cool experience. You know, NPR has been quite a champion for artists like myself. Felix Contreras is our kind of main contact there, and I will say that that's one of the big things I learned about that whole process is that, you know, nothing really happens without building relationships. And obviously I think that's one thing that we're really struggling in society right now is like how to do that. Like we need people, we need connection, and, you know, even just the ability to see each other and have a conversation in real time right now. Like I'm appreciating that in a whole new way, you know, and very much appreciating technology for the ability to do that. And I think that's one thing that Tiny Desk does is that it feels so intimate, even though you're watching on a computer screen, right? On your phone. And anyway, and so like it was an awesome experience. We practiced our booties off for that because it was very much like, you know, it was at a time in my career where I hadn't done nearly as much as I have now. And, you know, it was a stepping stone. And I was super freaked out about it. I was like, oh my God, we have to do. And I still look back on it. It's one of those things that's like, I'm really proud of us because I don't, like, I like watching it, you know, and that was what years, it's 5 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, there's easily like any other thing from 5 years ago. I'm like, I don't want to watch that.
Turn it off now. Yeah.
You know, so I think it, you know, and obviously like the way that the views keep climbing, I'm like, people must like it. It's really weird to me, you know. And like the comments are super fun. There's so many people like from El Salvador that chime in. I don't know, it's really fun. As far as being a judge, I was invited. So we actually played the first NPR family hour at South by Southwest, which was 2 years ago, I believe. And so and I've had some other connections with Bob Boylan and his team every now and then. Josh is their sound guy, and we're friends on Twitter and things like that. And so anyway, I guess my name got tossed in a hat for that when they came to South by and did like their first kind of like family hour at the Tiny Desk Family Hour show. And then I think either, one of them, probably Felix, put my name in the hat for being a judge this year. And they just invited me and I said yes. And as far as I know, what happens is they get like the onslaught of submissions, and then essentially they'll give us like a chunk of them, right? So that not everybody is going through every submission. So
Okay.
that's kind of how I understand it. And I believe they've extended the deadline. I think April 26th is now the deadline to submit. So they gave it like another month because of the state of our world right now. And then I believe I will get submissions in May.
Okay. So you're going to help actually do the programming for the Tiny Desk concerts. It's really cool.
Well, I'll help judge who gets, so like basically this is the Tiny Desk contest. And so it's like there's one winner. So essentially what they're doing is they're getting the onslaught, and then I think they'll like cull those down to groups to pitch to each of the judges. And then we will then, out of our group, judge those, whatever, 50, I don't know. And then I guess there's some other process after that. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you still have time to figure it out.
I was like, they'll send me an email, but it'll be fine.
No, but that's really cool. You talked a lot about traveling. We've had a few other artists that have been ambassadors as well come through our concert series, which is super exciting. But I've never gotten a chance to ask them on an interview, what was one of the best places you traveled to? And I've been asking everyone I've interviewed this, when you travel, what has been your favorite local kind of weird cuisine that you've had that you recommend to anybody who goes there?
All right. So the first question, I've been some interesting places. I would say the one that always comes to mind first is Uzbekistan. I can't explain to you what happened in Uzbekistan. It was just the entire time was, well, okay, I'll put it this way. It's essentially like if you took summer camp meets like the UN. We were there as part of a festival, an international music festival with 150 countries. 50 countries, 150 people from 50 different countries, staying in 2 hotels. And then around the city, it was kind of like South by, where you'd have like things around the city, you'd have different shows, right? Mm-hmm. And you would get to like it was amazing because people would stay up till all hours, like jamming around the pool. And we couldn't even talk to each other. Like these people were from like Azerbaijan and like Greece and like Nepal, and they had all kinds of instruments, and like, we would just jam and hang out till like 4 a.m., and there'd be like a tuba band at my window from Germany, like walking by. I mean, it was crazy. The whole thing was crazy. So that was one piece of it. Well, then there's just the Uzbekistan piece, which is a police state. So there's like police on the road every like 100 yards with guns. We never were alone. Very safe, but never alone. And then like, I just can't even describe the whole time we were there. We were constantly like, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing ever. Cause we're in the heart of the Silk Road. This is where some of the most beautiful textiles of the world are from. This is, where algebra was born, like amazing contributions to the world. We don't ever think about places like Uzbekistan, right? But this was like the heart of the world at some point. And, and so there's 14th century buildings that look like tapestries in stone. Like this is like so ugly compared to any like one little stone, like picture of that were stone, right? And you're just like watching, like looking at an entire building that looks like that, blown up, 500 times or something. I mean, it was gorgeous. Like the whole place, you're just like, this is absurd that humans did this so long ago. So we're constantly like between, oh my God, this is amazing. How is this happening? And oh my God, what is happening? Where are we? You know, we'd sit on a bus for like an hour because like there was like not a bus driver to take us where we were supposed to go. You know what I mean? It was like it was just like it was the weirdest experience ever. And then we'd get to a stage, a ginormous stage, light show, everything, zero equipment. Like, so then we're back there with all these other like countries, and it's like the UN of music, and they're like, okay, we're gonna borrow a DI from the guys from Nepal. Gina, can you let the Swedes use your guitar? We're gonna use their bass. They're gonna use, you know, our drum set in exchange for like the like Israelis are gonna like, it was hysterical. Like the whole, and we were there for like a week and a half. You know, it was nuts. It was totally nuts.
Yeah, I guess that you really learned to share in that moment.
It was hysterical. Well, and then we played like the big show that we played, which was a contest. We were in a contest for like $10,000. Had no idea it was a contest. Like before we get on stage, they're like, oh, by the way, this is for a contest. And we're like, what is happening? And so we get on there. They highly recommended that we wear cowboy hats. We had to go buy cowboy hats and take them on a plane. And we don't even like, I know I'm from Texas, but it's not part of my like get up, you know? We literally, the entire band had cowboy hats for the show in Uzbekistan. The whole thing was nuts. So we get on stage, and our stage was literally 14th century madrasas, which are Islamic colleges. And so if you look up this place, it's called Registan Square. If you just look up pictures of that was our stage. We were literally standing in the middle of Registan Square, which is gorgeous. Sun setting, like beautiful architecture, you know, it was absurd. Yep. Absurd, beautiful, like
really cool,
crazy. And then we started playing a song in an Uzbek song. We learned a song from Uzbekistan, and everyone lost their minds. Like the women there. So part of it is like, this is a really long story. I'm sorry.
No,
So like the women there, as a sign of wealth, they have capped teeth, like gold and silver teeth. And so when we started playing this song, and I'm talking like moms and grandmas, not like young women, like, yeah, like your mom and your grandma, capped teeth, right? Gold teeth.
Yeah.
Not capped teeth, like gold teeth. And so we start playing this song in Uzbekistan, and they literally, all the like older women just like immediately stand up and they start throwing their arms in the air, and like, you know, and then like everybody's clapping along. And I was just like, oh my God. And we were literally overnight famous in Uzbekistan. The next day we would have people walk up to us and they'd be like, Nazar, Nazar, which was the song that we played. And then they would show us a video. Everybody had somehow like passed the video around, so that just like everyone in Uzbekistan had a video of us playing the song on their phone. Women were like throwing their children on our bus to get photos with us. Like, it was like we were the Beatles. It was wild.
So things have changed a lot since that first Tiny Desk.
I'm huge in Uzbekistan, and I pretty much reached the pinnacle.
Honestly, who would have thought?
No, but I think for me, the big takeaway was that like they were obviously so, you know, honored, enamored. I don't know exactly, but like so honored that Americans would, you know, like honor their culture. Like that's how I see learning another song from another language, is like, how can we try to basically like, look, I can't speak your language, but can we connect somehow? And we're going to try to, you know, show you that we're trying, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, I feel like that's kind of what that meant for people. And I mean, I did so many interviews about this song. It was like throughout our 10 days there, like we played that song so many times and loved it. It's a great song. But people just so connected to us performing it, you know, it was wild.
Have you added it to your set, or is it just
Oh, totally. Yeah, we play it here in the States. The hard part about that song, like I could sing you a part of it, the problem is like it gets really repetitive because it's essentially one chord. Like it's not, and it really needs the drum beat behind it. So I'm working on like a backing track version since I can't be with my guys to see if we can, because it's a cool song. But like just me playing one chord for like 3 minutes is not very fun.
No, that that makes sense. But it's probably also an older song that's just important to the culture, like you said. And also props to you and your group to do that, because a lot of people would just be scared that they would mispronounce something or offend. And you guys took the time to actually learn it and do it well enough that people are throwing their children at you. So
Like that's a good succinct way. Yeah, on the like 10-hour plane ride over, I literally was listening to that song like over and over. And the embassy, so we were there as part of all this stuff with the State Department is basically we connect with the embassies there, and then they kind of like are our handlers, you know, and we drive around in like bulletproof vans and stuff. It's very crazy. And so anyway, but they would give me like a transliterated version. So if it's not in our alphabet and it's not in our language, then like it's basically like what would it sound like if it were in English, you know? And so they give me like a transliterated version of the song. And so I'm sitting there like on the plane for like 10 hours just being like
no, that's really cool. You said you were a journalism major, and I'm sure you've done a lot of interviews. What's one question that you wish had been asked to you up to this point?
That's a good one. I don't know. It's a really good question. Although I will say I avoided your question about food. So I actually have like I'm gluten-free, dairy-free, which makes traveling to other countries and eating their foods virtually impossible. Because most cultures have really wild and funky foods that always involve bread or cheese or something of that sort. So a lot of times I'm eating really boring stuff. But there are some really weird dishes out there. We had horse meat. I did eat horse meat in Kazakhstan. Oh, and I had deer's blood also in Kazakhstan in the ambassador's yurt.
So they really party it up in Kazakhstan.
Let's see, question that I wish I had asked. I don't know. I'm kind of an open book, so I just don't really, I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah, you've been fun to talk to in general, and you have a lot of fun stories, and I like the fact you write music that means something. That's I mean, that's always something that means that I enjoy. You know, you listen to the radio a lot today, and it's a very repetitive chorus that doesn't really have any depth, but it's nice to talk to an artist who's like, no, like I want to talk about homelessness, and I want to talk, you know, like these important things. So thank you for that. I really was hoping that we were gonna lace some music throughout, but this conversation has just been so great that we've, you know, is there anything, just to give them a little bit of a taste, that you'd like to play for our audience to just kind of hear about?
Indeed. Do you have any specific, I know you mentioned some songs already. Do you have one that you're excited about?
I'm just a fan in general, so anything that you think highlights you the best.
Okay, cool. This is a total rookie move, but I literally need to go get my capo.
Go ahead.
Give me just a second.
Yeah, you're okay.
I'm back. Oh my God. My wife literally last night, she was like, this capo is everywhere. And I was like, yeah, it'll be fine. And then I walk out there and she's like, what do you need? Your capo.
All the best relationships involve reading minds.
Oh my God. I know. She's amazing. I'm like, I call her my quarantine. I'm like, there's no other person I want to be cooped up with. All right, so this song is called Miles de Millas, like I talked about earlier. And the song means, it's actually really appropriate right now because it means thousands of miles. And I basically wrote it when I was far away from Jody, my wife. She had gone to LA and I was missing her. And so just long distance love and how much it sucks. But right now, obviously, I think we're missing, friends and family and all kinds of stuff. Connection. I need to know you're closer than 2,000 miles, or the tips of my fingers miss the curve of your smile. Those dimples make me mad inside, but you're my lover to find. I'm walking the block with a stupor afraid, each and I got no more to give than what I given today. You need someone to steal my mind, but you are hard to find. Yeah, you are hard to find. Te quiero, me quiero. Si tú no estás aquí, me extraño, me engaño. Para aguantar un día más, tan lloro, te espero. Desgastame. It's cold without your embrace around me. I'm frozen devout, waiting on bended knee. Your name is time and mine. You're my love to find. Yeah, you are to find. Te quiero, me quiero. Si tú no estás aquí, te extraño, me engaño. Para aguantar otro día más, tan duro, te espero. Miles de días desgástame. Tú tienes mi ser, tú tienes mi vida, tú tienes mi amor, amor mío, boleto. Te quiero, me pierdo. Si tú no estás aquí, te extraño, me engaño. Para aguantar un día más, te lloro, te espero. Miles de días desgástame.
Awesome. Gina, thank you so much for that. That was amazing, and I love that song, so I'm a little partial. But awesome. Gina, thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, stay safe.